Hi, I'm Tamara Kelly from mooglyblog.com, and in this video, I'm going to be demonstrating how to crochet the Olivewood Scarf, which is a free pattern you'll find on mooglyblog.com. This scarf matches the Olivewood hat, and it's a great pattern for wearing, gifting, and donating. I designed it for Warm Up America. Let's get started. And here you can see the Olivewood scarf, as well as the matching hat and mittens, all of which you'll find for free on mooglyblog.com. To make the scarf, I used a USJ 6mm crochet hook. This one is by Furls. I also used 370 yards of Brava stripe worsted weight yarn, which you can find on both We Crochet and Knit Picks. To make this scarf to the size required for Warm Up America, I used 2 balls of yarn. If you're making this for yourself, feel free to make it longer or shorter to suit your own needs. To make the Olivewood scarf, I started with a row of 22 foundation double crochets. If you would prefer to avoid using the foundation double crochet, you can instead simply chain 24 or so, and then double crochet across. The main thing is to have 22 double crochets at the end of the first row. I'm going to show you how I began mine. I'm going to start by chaining 2. Here we go. And then I yarn over and insert my hook into the underneath hump of the first chain I made. I yarn over and pull up a loop that will become the chain at the bottom of my first stitch. Then I yarn over and pull a loop up through that chain. And then I finish my double crochet. Yarn over and pull through 2, and yarn over and pull through 2. While using stitch markers on this pattern is optional, I do recommend it. It just makes it so much easier to tell where each row begins and ends. So I'm going to go ahead and mark the top of that first stitch. To make the rest of the row, I yarn over and find the 2 loops at the bottom of the previous stitch, the one I just made. Then I yarn over and pull a loop up and through. Now this will be the chain at the bottom of my second stitch. I yarn over and pull a loop up through that chain, and then yarn over and pull through 2, and yarn over and pull through 2. Let's make one more together. I yarn over, find the 2 loops at the bottom of the previous stitch, pull up a loop, make sure you pull it up to the height of the other stitches here, then yarn over and pull a loop up through just that chain at the bottom of this stitch, and we finish with yarn over and pull through 2, and we continue this until we have a total of 22 stitches. And this is what it should look like at the end of row 1 of the Olivewood scarf. Again, you don't have to work foundation double crochets. You can work standard double crochets into a chain. As long as you end up with 22, you're all set. For rows 2 through 4, we're going to work some ribbing. We're going to start with a chain of 1. Of course, we need to turn. And then we half double crochet in the first stitch. So I'm going to use my second stitch marker to mark the first stitch of this row. There we go. And then I am going to work a front post double crochet in the next stitch. So to do that, I'm going to yarn over and I'm going to find the post of the second stitch of the row right there. This is a front post stitch, so I'm going to go in from the front, around the post, and come back to the front. Yarn over and pull up a loop, and then I'll finish the double crochet as usual. The next stitch is a back post stitch, back post double crochet. So I want to yarn over. I'm going to come from the back, around the post of the next stitch, and go back to the back. Yarn over, and this time I'm going to very carefully pull that loop up and through, leaving myself enough room to work off the rest of that double crochet. Then we continue to front post and back post double crochet all the way across until we come to the very last stitch. So let's do a couple more together. For the front post double crochet, we find that next stitch, we come from the front and end up back at the front. Pull our loop up and finish our double crochet. The next one is going to be a back post double crochet. So we start at the back of the fabric and end up at the back of the fabric, where we carefully pull up our loop and finish our double crochet again. So we continue this all the way across until there's 1 stitch left where we work a half double crochet. And this is what it should look like at the end of row 2. You can see we've got some great texture from our post stitches, we've got a half double crochet in the first stitch, and we finished up with a half double crochet in the last stitch. So now we would repeat what I just did for row 2 for 2 more rows to create this great ribbed beginning to our scarf. For now though, for the purposes of demonstration, I'm going to jump to row 5. For row 5, we simply chain 1 and half double crochet in each stitch across. There's my first one. Again, I'm going to put my stitch marker right in the top. And then as I say, simply half double crochet in each stitch across for row 5. So there's row 5, a simple row of half double crochet. For row 6, we turn or chain 1 and turn, however you prefer to do it. There we go. And then we start with a half double crochet in the first stitch. We can mark the top of that stitch there with our stitch marker. And then we are going to work in the front third loop until one stitch remains, and then we'll half double crochet in the last one. So we work a half double crochet in the front third loop of each stitch across. What does that mean? Well, let's look at this row of half double crochet in front of us. If we look at the top of it, we see the top 2 loops, right? The front loop and the back loop. But this wrong side, if you will, the other side of half double crochet, also has this horizontal bar right here in front. Looking from this angle, it almost looks like that would be the front loop. It's actually created by the yarn over in the half double crochet. And it's this loop right here that we call the third loop. So here's how we work those half double crochets in the third loop across. I've got my yarn over on my hook, and now I'm going to still work the same direction. I want to go away from me as I go under the loop, and I'll go right under that loop, right at the front of the stitch. Then I can yarn over and pull up my loop and finish my half double crochet as usual. It's a usual half double crochet, just worked in a different spot. We want to find that loop right in front. This is going to create, again, wonderful texture on our project. We do this on this row, and we're going to do it on the next row as well. So front loop, or excuse me, front third loop, half double crochet across, work a half double crochet in the last stitch, and I'll see you as we get to the end of the row. So here I am at the end of row 6. I worked a standard half double crochet in the first and last stitches, and then did that third loop half double crochet across. Doesn't look like much on this side, but when we turn, you can see all the great texture that created. And we're going to be doing the same thing on row 7, but on row 7, we need to reduce our stitch count by 1 to set ourselves up for the next couple rows. So after we chain 1 and turn, or turn and chain 1, however you like to do it, we start row 7 with a half double crochet in the first stitch, just as we've been doing here. Let me get that stitch marker in our new first stitch of the row. And then what we're going to do is work that front third loop, but now we're going to do a single crochet 2 together for these first, or rather these next 2 stitches. So same thing, we want to find that third horizontal loop right at the front of our work. We're going to go into the next stitch and pull up a loop. Now, why a single crochet 2 together? Why not a half double crochet 2 together? Because the single crochet 2 together creates just as many loops as a half double crochet. But we want to make sure to pull these loops up nice and high. So there's the first one. I'm going to go into the next stitch again, just that front third loop, and pull up a loop. Now, I pull all of these nice and high, yarn over, and pull through all 3. And that's my single crochet 2 together that looks like a half double crochet. From here, we just continue to work that third loop half double crochet all the way across until we half double crochet in the top of the very last stitch of the row. So at the end of row 7, we've got 21 stitches now, and again, we've got a great pop of texture here sticking out on the other side. You can see how that shows up a bit here in our finished scarf as well. After that, we're ready to begin the repeat for this scarf, which goes from rows 8 through row 19. So let's go ahead and do that repeat together. Row 8 begins with a chain 1. And if, I lost my chain 1. Let's do that again. Chain 1 and then turn, or turn and chain 1, whichever you prefer. And we half double crochet in that very first stitch, like so. And I will mark that first stitch, of course, with my stitch marker. And then we are going to begin our Trinity stitch across. We start with a chain 1, and now we single crochet 3 together in the next 3 stitches. If you've made the hat that matches this scarf, this is the Trinity stitch that creates the texture, but we're doing it a little bit differently this time. So we've got our half double crochet in the first stitch, then we chain 1. Now we're going to single crochet 3 together over the next 3 stitches. So we go to the next stitch and pull up a loop, and then the stitch after that and pull up a loop, and the stitch after that and pull up a loop. We have 4 loops on our hook. We yarn over and pull through all 4. Then we chain 1 again. Now we're going to begin the repeat that's going to take us across the rest of the row until we get right to the end. We're going to single crochet 3 together again, but now we're going to begin by going into the same stitch we finished the previous one in. So we go right back in that stitch again and pull up a loop, and then each of the next 2 stitches until we have 4 loops back on our hook. We've got 4 loops, we yarn over, we pull through, and chain 1, and do it again. Go back to that same stitch we finished the previous one in, or the previous single crochet 3 together, pull up a loop, and do the same in the next 2 stitches. Once we've got 4 loops on our hook, we can yarn over and pull through all 4, and chain 1 again. We keep doing this all the way across until we get to the end of the row, and I'll meet you there. So I continued that Trinity stitch pattern across. We worked our last single crochet 3 together, chain 1, and now we can finish up our row by working a half double crochet in the very last stitch, like so. So right there is what it should look like at the end of row 8. Rows 9 and 10 are the same. We're going to start with a chain 1 and a half double crochet in the first stitch. Now we're going to go back to making the Trinity stitch, but for these rows, we're going to be working into chain spaces as well as stitches. Now, whether you actually work in the chain space or the chain itself is up to you. You can try it both ways if you like. Personally, I like to just stay right across the top of the stitches. It makes it a little bit easier. So we've got our half double crochet in the first stitch. We're going to chain 1, and then we need to single crochet 3 together. We go into the next chain space, the next stitch, and the next chain space. Now, this chain space can be a little trickier to find. It's right up here, and that's what I mean about just sort of following along the tops of the stitches. Then we've got our 4 loops, so we've pulled through to finish, and chain 1. Now we go back to the same way we were working before, where we begin our stitch in the previous stitch, and then pull up a loop from the next 2 stitches or chain spaces, whatever comes next. Pull through when you've got 4 loops and chain 1 again. Continue all the way on across until you get to the end where you'll chain 1 and have that half double crochet in the very last stitch. So here I have finished row 9, and row 10 is exactly the same. So for the sake of time, we're going to jump to the instructions for row 11. For row 11, we're going to double crochet all the way across, decreasing again at the end of this row so that we go down to 20 stitches. So let's go ahead and begin this row together. We're going to start with our chainless starting double crochet. Again, you can use whatever double crochet substitute you prefer. You can chain 3, you could use a stacked single crochet. I prefer to use the chainless starting double crochet, and I do have separate tutorials on that stitch if you need them. After we've got our first double crochet in there, however you like to make it, then simply continue to double crochet all the way across until we come to the last 3 stitches. So I'll meet you when we get there. So I've double crocheted across to the last 3 stitches, and I just want to point out that these can be kind of hard to see with the Trinity stitch happening there. So I really recommend you just look at the top of the row itself, and then you can easily see we've got 1, 2, 3 more stitches that we can work into. So we're going to begin here with a double crochet 2 together. So I yarn over, go into the next stitch and pull up a loop, yarn over and pull through 2, and then yarn over again and go into the next stitch. Again, look for the V's at the top if you feel like you're getting a little bit lost here coming from the front. Pull up our loop, yarn over and pull through 2. Now with 3 loops left on the hook, I'm going to yarn over and pull through all 3 to finish that stitch and finish up our row with a double crochet in the very last stitch. So now after row 11, you should have a total of 20 stitches. So after you've finished row 11, the next several rows, rows 12 through 18, are simply rows of double crochet worked even. Let's take a quick look at what that looks like here on our finished scarf. We can see, stop that from rolling away. We can see here is that ribbed bottom. Here are those rows of half double crochet that create the texture. And then here are those rows of the Trinity stitch. If you look very closely, you can see right there, it looks like is the decrease that we just made at the end of row 11. And then we've got rows 12 through 18, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, all just worked in double crochet evenly across. If you look very closely here, you can see what we're going to do for row 19, which is the last row of our repeat. We double crochet across again, but we're going to have an increase there to bring us back to 21 stitches. So, once again, I just demonstrated row 11. Rows 12 through 18 are just double crochet evenly across, so we're going to jump over to row 19. In row 19, we need to go from 20 stitches back to 21. We're going to do it sort of similarly to the way we took away a stitch. We start with our double crochet substitute here for our first stitch. And I always have a stitch marker handy for that. There we go. And then once again, I am simply going to double crochet all the way across to the last 2 stitches. Here we are at the end of row 19 with just 2 stitches left. So now we want to work 2 stitches in the second to last stitch. 1 and 2. And then finish it up with a double crochet in the very last stitch. And that is the final row of our repeat. We repeat rows 8 through 19 8 more times for a total of 9. Then we repeat rows 8 through 10 once and rows 5 through 6 again. I know that sounds like a lot, but we've gone over all of those rows, and you can see all of this written out in the written pattern. Again, we're simply repeating rows of double crochet and Trinity stitch. We've got a little bit of increasing and decreasing to keep our width. We want to keep 6 inches wide for this pattern, which fits the parameters for Warm Up America. Now, as we finish up all those repeats here, you can see we finally come right back down. And here are some of those repeats. We talked about we repeat our big repeat, rows 8 through 19 here. And then we come back and repeat rows 8 through 10. And you can see that right here. Remember, rows 8 through 10 are our Trinity stitches. Then we repeat rows 5 and 6. Those are those half double crochet rows we did where we work in that third loop. You can see here on both sides, we get another great row of texture just like we did before. Finally, we've got more repeats of those rows of post stitches. Just like we did at the beginning, we're going to cap off our scarf with the exact same rows we began it with. So basically, we're just running the beginning of the scarf backwards to finish it up. Again, the free written pattern is available on mooglyblog.com, so you can see exactly what you're supposed to do for each row and follow along. I've demonstrated each one of the rows now in this tutorial, so hopefully you can have a great time making your own Olivewood scarf. And that's how to crochet the Olivewood scarf. Remember, you'll find the matching hat, mittens, as well as this scarf pattern for free on mooglyblog.com. Thanks so much for watching, and don't forget to like and subscribe.